Hello and welcome back to Wine and Wine with me, Sam Loy, and the lovely Russell Cutting. We're all the way down to the black cards of the set at the moment. In our delightful romp through Crimson Vow. In the little break we just had, then Russell and I were just talking about weddings, so I feel that that's appropriate. Hopefully a little less blood than this
Considering.
one.
Yeah, maybe. Less
Well,
less blood than the red wedding is as well. Yeah.
yeah. There's still room for violence. Okay, so
Speaking of,
yeah, speaking of, so we got some honorary mentions here. I don't think that many of these need that long to cover, but Hero's Downfall. Interesting that it's moved to uncommon, which makes sense. We just had Feed the Serpent go unnoticed, basically, in Standard, and that was a common, I think, in Keldheim.
yeah.
Yeah. So Hero's Downfall, it's great to have in the format. Hopefully we're at the point where this sort of effect can be an evergreen. Being able to destroy creatures or planeswalkers for 3 is, I think, fair. I think it's just a fair effect. It did define its first standard format when it was originally in Theros. But I think at this point, this is sort of the going rate for this sort of thing, and it's going to get it's going to be useful and it's going to be a good card to have. But I'm not super high on its print.
Yeah. I want this to be evergreen. I think good, clean answers that have some restrictions, in this case double black, are very good at building an incredibly healthy standard format. So I am extremely excited to see this card come back because I think it's just very good and clean, and also extremely excited to see it as an uncommon, which means its availability won't be an issue for people that haven't seen this card before. It's an absolute slam dunk, and there's another card we'll see later in red to talk about, which I also think should be an evergreen card, much like Duress, and a couple of other things, Opt, etc., which I think should just be standard staples.
Well, interesting.
Welcome back.
Opt is not,
Welcome back.
Opt is not
Opt
legal at
is,
the moment.
I understand that we have consider, which is comparable.
I want Opt as well. I want to play Demi Leeches. Anyway, moving
Yeah.
on. Okay, so the middle card we have here, basically Xanthid Necromancer for zombies. It is a zombie itself. So just a way to get value out of your zombies dying. In general, that would be a really good thing if it didn't say non-token, but it does. So it's going to be useful anyway. We do have Squadron Zombie. We do have a bunch of good zombie effects. This is noticeably quite good with Necro Duality. Getting 2 of these down doubles the effect. Even if you were to kill one of them, that means that you get 2/2/2s for the death of the first, which is quite nice. So in a sort of go wide zombie strategy, this is a meaningful card, if not a particularly unusual effect. I think we've seen it before, but it's meaningful here, and it certainly will change the options of those decks.
2 important things to note, particularly if you are comparing it to older cards like that's Necromancer. One, we are not seeing decay mechanic return in this set, so the zombies stick around on attacking, so they can be used instead of just being more used as a one-off resource, and the tokens do not come into play tapped. They come into play untapped, so they can be used for blocking. So they are 2 big ticks
Yeah.
for me when it comes to this.
Superpowers other cards as well,
Yeah.
like Village Rights,
Yeah.
and Champion of the Perished. So I like it a lot. It's a good card.
It's
I can
on the stronger end of the spectrum for what we typically see for this effect.
Yeah, great travel support as well. It's also like it's a sort of thing that you can go through a whole standard format of a tribe being legal with never seeing this effect. So seeing it here is it matters. It just matters.
Yeah. Good,
Next,
good card.
yeah, just a good card. Demonic Bargain up next. We both love the art as we were talking about earlier.
Very good.
Yeah, it's man, I kind of want a print of this. It's just really
Yeah,
cool colours.
I'd put it on the wall.
Yeah,
the
pastel.
the color scheme is right up my alley.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
This hits
huge
me where
fan
I
of that
live as
pastel.
well.
No.
Yep. Well, with that cap you got on, that pink cap, it's no surprise. Great cap as well. So this is pretty clear downside, pretty clear upside. I don't know how played this is going to be, but it's going to be relevant, and I think it's going to be relevant to have access to something like this in Historic. Now, there are other cards that have a tutor effect, like Grim Tutor is legal in Historic. Excuse me. Downsides there is you pay 3 life and it costs black instead of 2 and a black. So 1 black overall. I think this is a better downside. I think it's a more playable card. And I think it also does some cool things with some combo decks that, are trying to get rid of their library or to reduce the size of their library. Since Thassa's Oracle was banned in Historic, it's less relevant, but all the same, you still have cards like Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. So I like this card a lot. I think it's really interesting, and it's probably not going to get heaps of play, but hey, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think if you are looking at it in a kind of dedicated combo deck where you're looking for a particular piece, you are extremely low odds to exile all 4 of that piece, which is interesting, although it does obviously have a bit of a risk-reward scenario. But while I don't think this is format defining or format breaking, I like it as a tool. I think it's a really nice piece to have available, which could potentially enable a archetypal strategy, which that being combo, which I like to see in a healthy metagame. So I'm glad it's around. I'm glad it's splashable. So nice, safe, unsafe card.
Yeah.
All I got there, but love it.
Yeah,
love it.
Cool. All right, let's move on. So the first card on this list is a card that Russell didn't expect to be on this list, but I put.
What is this?
This is Blood Fountain.
What is this? I haven't even seen this card. What is this
Blood
card?
Fountain's world. We're just living in it.
Okay.
The reason that I have Blood Fountain on this list is it does something which is kind of incredible, which is make 2 artifacts for 1 mana. So this is an artifact that makes another artifact token for 1. How many times have we seen that before? 0 times. None. 0. A big donut there. We've seen it.
Do I need to check it? Do I need to check the tape? Do I need to scour the internet to see if
I'm never wrong. No one will prove me wrong in the comment section, and neither will you, Russell.
I'm off it.
Yeah. So this
continue.
Yes. So it makes 2 artifacts for 1 mana, which is relevant in not standard, but definitely relevant in Historic, where there are a bunch of untapped affinity cards, and by affinity I mean like actual affinity. Infinity Mechanic, so Thought Monitor is in that format, as is Mirror Enforcer, and having something that makes this many artifacts for 1 card and for 1 mana at the same time is really good. It has some downsides, obviously. It's not a powerful card, but it does give you long-term access to cards that you want in your deck anyway. So things like Emery and all the rest of it will go really well with this card, and Thought Monitor. I think it's a really narrow card, and I think it's only going to get played in a certain number of archetypes or decks or whatever. But I do like it, and it's certainly, I have no idea if it's going to make my 75, but it's certainly going to make my 120 cards, which I'm considering in those sort of archetypes. So I like it for its uniqueness, and yeah, it's a good card to me.
I accept this as a potential bullshit enabler, and I would like to move on.
Okay, we're moving on. But hey, I like bullshit, so.
No, me too. I'm gonna look at this card now. You piqued my interest.
Okay, I will say, just to put my biases out on the table, I've been playing a lot of Affinity in Historic and trying to make it work lately. So that's probably why I saw this, and I was like, oh, that doesn't exist. And then it was like, okay, we'll talk about it at least.
You're thinking outside the box, so enjoy it.
Yeah, look, you kind of have to.
Outside the casket. You think outside the casket, sorry.
Well, sure. Let's go with that. Anyway,
I'm not very funny.
All right, we're moving on. There's a card.
Ooh, something good. A good card.
All right, I've talked about my card. You talk about your card. Fine.
It's not my. It's not my card. It's our card.
It is.
What was that? What was that card? It was from Ravnica. It was the thing in mono black. It was a 4-mana 6/6 flying trampler.
Yeah, demon.
The demon that had a weird...
Desecrated demon.
Desecrated demon where your opponent could sacrifice creatures, tap it, and put counters on it. So it was one of those things where you're getting an undercosted absolute beat stick with a quote-unquote downside. But that downside is like more than made up for through sheer freaking stats. So that's what we have here, I think. We've got you know, a 5/6 flying trample for 4, extremely good. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, yeah, they get this token, which potentially could allow them to increase card quality, but they cost 1 mana. It's not just a easy sacrifice, so it does tax their mana to do it. But it gains additional power for however many tokens they have. This creates interesting sub-games, which I like. It has very good raw stats, which I like. Pretty hard to kill. And it's a relevant creature type with a lot of relevant abilities. So it ticks pretty much all the boxes in what I, again, much like your Stifle Exploit card, if this card is good in Standard, it is a Standard I want to play because it is doing things that I like to do, because it creates interesting choices. It is not absolutely oppressive, but it is definitely powerful both on its face and contextually within games, and it encourages decisions and interesting game states, I think.
Yeah. So I mean,
that's what I have to say.
We talked about this like off camera, where when we noticed that the standard format was a lot of monocolored decks encouraged by the snow effects and just a bad overall mana base, we were like, okay, it's kind of like that Theros standard, that Theros Ravnica standard from way back in the day, original Theros and Return to Ravnica standard. And the difference was there were cool cards that had downsides but were really powerful. And now we've seen Hero's Downfall, which was in that format, and we've seen Bloodvial Purveyor, which is very similar to Desecrated Demon. Now, we don't have any Pack Rats, and we don't have a Mutavault effect, but although maybe Faceless Haven can stand in for that. This is sort of the more the even though the mana base has been really bad, that doesn't actually always mean a bad standard. This standard has been really bad, but this is the sort of card that can fix that just by its existence. It gives you another powerful thing you can do, and it's a value proposition. But hey, a lot of the cards in this format are not spells. Like, I always say spells, but like a lot of cards are like a 4-mana card. So if you cast like it's Azeka's Chariot, right? They'll get a blood token as well as whatever they else, the 2 cats and the chariot itself. But you get a trade-off for that, and if they're spending all their mana on that and not removing this is going to get +1 power when it attacks. Interestingly, and I don't know if they've clarified this yet, it doesn't say until end of turn.
It's been errated.
Has it already been errated? Okay.
Yes.
All right, cool. Because I didn't know how we were going to keep track of that in paper. So, okay, it's still end of turn. Much better.
Yes.
But yeah.
Printing error otherwise. Yeah. This is our... one of the printing errors. There are a couple more, but this one's already been.
Well, I'm glad that we don't have to wait for that then. But anyway, regardless of all that, totally with you, Russell. Really like this card.
Yeah, I hope it's good because I think it enables and encourages good games.
Yeah, I think if we get a mono black deck, I won't be upset.
All right. Either. I love mono black.
Yeah.
Next card.
All right. So Henrika Domnathi, which is just a very impressive, very cool vampire that really understands color theory quite well, according to the art.
Did you know that she was potentially Griselbrand's lover?
I did not. This is pretty cool. All right.
I know.
That's what you're getting. Is this why we have the flavor text on the backside, which is once you've tasted demon blood, you'll wonder why you ever settled for human?
Yeah, so the Domnathi Domnathi clan are the vampires that consort and sympathize with demons.
Ah, okay.
And she is the head of that clan and was rumored to be Griselbrand's lover.
Badass. They've done a good job with the Vampire Legends Vampire Legends, I should say, in these sets traditionally. Sick. Like the original Olivia was one of my favorite cards when it was printed. This kind of gives me same archetypal vibes as that, where it's like it's a 4-mana, a little bit underpowered in terms of stats originally, but the value you're going to get from it sticking in play, and it doesn't take you long to get that value back, and that's super meaningful. So for me, the reason I really like this card, and I don't know whether I actually like this or Infernal Demon better, likely I just would play both in the same deck and it's not a big deal. But if that is a thing, the reason I really like this is that it's a start of combat that it triggers. So you can play this in your first main phase and then draw a card and lose a life. Hey, you paid 4 mana for a 1/3 flyer, and if it gets removed for that, that kind of sucks, right? And you just get attacked through and all the rest of it. But if you're playing against a removal deck, you can get a card back from it immediately and then still force them to play the removal. If you're playing aggro, you can immediately transform it into a 3/4 flying lifelink and Death Touch, but not as relevant as the lifelink. And and if you need to deal with something which is a problematic permanent, and maybe they've only got the one thing, maybe they've got one of those Krakens that we saw earlier, then you can make them sacrifice it. You can either trade this or you can trade a Decay Zombie or whatever it is. So I like every play pattern this has, and that it's pretty mutable depending on the matchup. Like, we've got the draw card, which is clearly quite good against control and mid-range decks. We've got the sacrifice a creature, which is sort of good against particular archetypes. Even trading for a Godspan Dragon can be really good. And then we've also got the make it just a giant lifelinker. So good against aggro as well. I really like this card.
Yeah, again, this again is something I'm going to reiterate and repeat a lot. This encourages good gameplay. This encourages interesting decisions. And if this card is good, then I think the standard is good. So the flaw of a slightly worse, quote-unquote, Phyrexian Rager, where it replaces itself, but then has extra options later. I like the fact that you don't have to go through all the modes in order to transform it, so you can immediately transform it. Say it's late game, you may already have, you may have 7 mana, and you may already have something with flying, Death Touch or Lifelink on the battlefield, so you could flip it and push through some damage. Really cool. As you say, problem creature. If you're up a creature, you can do that sort of thing. It presents interesting game choices. It, provided you are, playing sensibly and you're not too far behind, it will almost always, if not always, replace itself in one form or another. And its end state transform is a serious threat. So, again, ticks all the boxes, does a lot of stuff. Really sweet design.
And
I hope it's good enough.
What do you think is better, this or Bloodline? Blood Vial? I forget the name.
The 4-drop?
Which is the better 4-drop, do you think?
I like the optionality of Henrika, which I think is why it's a mythic. I think it has... So the Blood Vial is a more blunt instrument, where this is a utility knife.
So your answer is Henrika?
Yes.
Okay, we agree on that. I think this is the...
But by a nose. I think they're both very powerful 4-drops, and there will be tension in deck building. And also, this is where it gets good, because if we have churn in the metagame, you get to decide whether you need that blunt force object in the Blood Vial Keeper, where you want to be a little bit more aggressively bent, or whether you need to be making interactive decisions, which is where Henrika comes into play.
Yeah, to me, I would say that Henrika, which is it?
I'm French, French speaking, so I say Henrika.
Henrika, that sounds nicer anyway.
Henrika Donati.
Yeah, that's not bad. I'm here for that. French are purveyors of fine wines, and the Nathis are purveyors of fine blood. So Henrika's, I think, the better card by quite a large margin, but the other card's really good. So to me, it's like, okay, I'm playing 2 of this first. Now, how good are the cards compared to each other? I'm like, well, that'll depend on what the third copy is. So I'm two copies of this deck before I start thinking about Blood Vial Purveyor. That's my take on it right now. I really like this card though. So, hey, mono black guys, come on, let's do it. The rock, or let's play black red, or maybe 3 colors, blue black would like this card as well. So I'm just here for it.
The legendary clause is somewhat interesting, but also I'm pretty sure my rules brain may be completely congealed now. You can just flip this and then play a second copy as Henrika Donati.
Yeah.
And then that's pretty dope. So she
semi-protection.
Semi-mitigates her own drawback at least for a couple of turns.
Well, I mean,
you can sacrifice her. You can draw the card, lose a life, next turn sacrifice the Donati.
Yeah, absolutely. So
really good.
Yeah, really good. Really good. Big fan.
Good play patterns. 5 stars.
All right, let's move on to something way more boring. Draft Reaver.
I love him though.
Very
He's
cool.
like made of bones.
Yeah, I don't like this art, to be honest, though.
It's
Like,
very boring.
I mean, like, look at this. Look how well illustrated and drawn this is. Billy Christian, you nailed it. And then
Yeah.
Dave Kendall, this is a great piece of magic art. It's just not normally the sort of art you'd be commissioned to do for a rare. This is normally be a draft card that you get this sort of art on.
It feels like a card from like before 2002.
That's fair. I mean, and I
Feels
like
old.
that. I like the older school illustration stuff. I mean, I really like oils and all the rest of it. So some of the stuff that gets a little bit computer manipulated can get me if there's enough attention to detail. But to me, this kind of looks like it's a common.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, anyway, Sarcarnophage, eat your heart out.
Yeah. So 2 mana 3/3
Hello.
with exploit. Doesn't need to do the exploit. Just a 2 mana 3/3 zombie warrior. That's already pretty good. And at the beginning of upkeep, the downside is it deals 1 damage to you. Hey, we're not that upset. We're playing warriors or zombies. Or both. Warriors, zombies. Who cares? The exploit effect is destroy target planeswalker. I don't expect that to be super relevant, but I do expect it to be very, very good when it needs to be. And it comes at zero cost. Like,
It's
literally
extremely good icing. Extremely good icing.
it's a 2 mana 3/3 for aggro decks in relevant tribes. And it could have just really nice flavor text there, and I'd still love this card. And instead, it's got a very relevant ability. Now, interestingly, Red and 7 is probably the only Planeswalker getting played at the moment, I think, which is a relevant thing to kill, by the way. But, I think Chandra and maybe Sorin, which is the next card on our list, have chances as well in terms of just power level. Sorin less so than Chandra for me. But if we're starting to see Planeswalkers, and, we've got more sets to come as well, and a whole rotation, new sets through that, this is a great aggro card that's going to really make a good argument for zombies to just stick around in terms of just the stats are good. You don't often get black aggro cards which are on par with the power toughness of the green ones, and we have it here, and that's really cool.
Yeah, great tool for, again, potential churn. It's a good answer, but it's also just a good, high floor and high ceiling. And to pull it back to older formats, 7 point particularly, there's a black-red aggressive deck, Dylan Kakawa, the kind of like mainstay with that one. I would not be, haven't chatted with them yet, but I'm sure this might be making that deck because it does a lot of work.
Look, I'll be honest, this is going to get played in Historic and Modern. So this is going to get played in all of our relevant formats that we set up the front. Like in Modern, Black Red Zombies is a reasonable tier 2 archetype at the moment. It might be a tier 1 archetype because it's got a lot of help. It certainly will get played in Historic. It's super relevant there. And as you get into those medium-sized formats, the Planeswalkers are both really powerful, but also, like the pool of them, the power level gets to be a little lower. We're not just talking Jason Mind Sculptor there. So, I think the card's just really dope. It's a really good card.
Again, love the design. I think it does everything I would like to do in a modern-day format. Cool.
All right, last card, as I slightly spoiled, Sorin the Mirthless.
Sorin the fuckboy.
Sorin is just out of mirth. He's no more. No, look, he had a mirthful time while he was trapped in stone, and now he's out.
Do you want to know why he's mirthless?
Yeah, because Grandpa's gone.
No.
Huh.
Because Olivia Baldaran has brainwashed his grandpa to marry her.
Yeah, because Grandpa's gone.
Grandpa's here. He's just marrying his arch rival.
No, we saw in Faithful Absence. He was like, Grandpa's gone. And then Grandpa had gone to marry someone. And then he's like, I'm out of mirth now. Fuck this. And just not a fan. Just not a fan of things.
Didn't want to come to this wedding.
He's pretty emo. Yeah, and he's like, I could probably do... I'm a very powerful planeswalker, one of the original ones that sealed the Eldrazi. I could probably do something about some, local vampires. But, maybe storyline doesn't permit that.
Olivia also resurrected all of his least favorite relatives to come to the wedding, and that is canon. No, I'm dead set serious.
I know you're
like,
dead ass.
all the people I don't like are at this wedding, but I'm forced to
They're
go
alive
to.
again. Oh my god, this is a
Ugh.
nightmare. Oh, this is a great combination of just hilarious and emo. I'm just a big fan of this. I'm gonna need I don't have any copies of Fateful Absence, but I'm gonna need the storyline of Granddad's gone. I'm had to come to a wedding I didn't like. I'm gonna need it. Just I might put it in a frame. Anyway,
All right, fine. Let's talk about this card.
most meaningfully, I think this is the best thing about this card, and it is not. And I mucked up. I didn't put it here. There's a alternative art by one of the Castlevania art creators for this Siren, and it's one of the most beautiful. She's a Japanese lady, and she works in mixed medium, and it's just fucking amazing. It's like super Castlevania. So I don't know who out there is a Castlevania guy like I am. But if you are a Castlevania person, grab that art. Yeah. It's fucking sick. And, it's got that whole really soft etching sort of look to it. But yeah. Also, if anyone's interested, look up how she paints, because it's kind of a crazy work technique, and that's why her stuff's so unique.
So I have a question for you. How many versions of this card are there?
I think 4.
Yeah.
Cool.
4 different versions.
Yeah, but it would normally be 3.
That's non-foil as well. So there are 8. If you count pre-release, there are 9 different possible versions of this freaking card.
I'm here for that.
God.
I'm a big fan of Soren. Soren's one of the only cool planeswalkers because he's a vampire.
No, he sucks.
He's so mad at Granddad, and
he's so mad at everything. He's just a broody little shit.
All right. Okay. So.
All right.
We're kind of getting off topic.
All right. Fine. Fine.
I think it does. It draws cards, makes Vampire Nighthawk sort of cards. I think that's a good thing. Okay. Just let me bring this over. This is the art. Come on, Russell. Look at this.
No, that one's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. Fantastisch. Anyway, so you can bob yourself, except you get to check, which I hate. You shouldn't be able to check. You're not allowed to it's a 10 drop.
There is no stakes.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Probably good for a vampire, but
it's nice upside. I get that in terms of gameplay, but in terms of theme, not here for that. I think making 2.
He's not here for that. He's like, I'm not taking any risks.
I mean, he's not here for much other than
Look, what is the entree? No, I don't want that. No.
He's not a yes kind of dude. He doesn't say yes to life at all.
The token is super weird. A 2/3 flying lifelink.
If it was a
weird token.
Yeah, it is. If it was a Nighthawk, it'd be too good, or this would need to cost 5. And
yeah.
I get why they pared it back a little bit. I think this is actually with the fact that we have 3 playable black 4-mana cards. That all mythics. One's a rare. Sorry, Bloodbath is a rare. But there's a lot of choices to make there. I don't know which one's going to be best for the straight vampires deck. It might be this one, but look, it's probably this one. I think that this card's going to be played. I think it's going to be playable. Is it the best of the 4 drops? I don't know. It keeps you alive a long time. This is a decent control card. I just don't know about which one's the best one. I think this card's really a little bit underrated. But it's also just a Planeswalker by the numbers. It's not a super exciting card.
Yeah, but we haven't seen this for a while. For the last year or so, we've actually seen a dip in the Planeswalkers. I mean, War of the Spark absolutely destroyed it.
We needed a break, yeah.
And then we had Oko, which absolutely fucked it. And then they really took their foot off the pedal. But this is the return to form of a 4-mana Planeswalker. Normally, this would have 3 loyalty or something, safe to say. But it goes up to 5, which is not often a one-shot for card advantage, quote unquote. You've got a negative that protects itself, and the token it creates is not laughable. It pads your life total and is good. And the ultimate isn't game ending, but it's pretty close to. It does a lot. But you don't need to use it. It's one of those ones where your plus and neg are going to win you the game by itself.
Yeah, I don't see myself -7ing very often. I mean,
No.
I think notably this is a card that could go both in aggro and in control. Like and mid range. I don't think it'll go in mid range because the creatures are too good. But I think that you could equally put this in like if you put this in a control deck, you can sweep the board, play this, gain life back quite easily, gain cards back quite easily. It can protect itself with loyalty or with creatures defending it. I like it there, and I think in aggro the same way, diversifying your threats, being able to recoup cards, especially when you're ahead on board and you don't want to overcommit. This is a good card there as well. So I think this card's going to it's going to find places to get played, even though it doesn't excite me particularly.
Yeah.
It's just as a design, this card, this could have just been in a core set. This card could have been in a
Well,
core
yeah,
set.
it's a return to form of
It's the vampire
generically good planeswalker.
It's a vampire planeswalker in Innistrad in the vampire set, and it's kind of vanilla.
The core set Sauron that we had last time would be better served in this set.
Yeah,
than
that card's way
this
too
one.
good. You could not.
I'm
put this
aware.
in-
I'm
you-
aware, but
cannot,
like
you cannot. We'll
that
be
that
talking-
would be better thematically.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. All right, cool. So that's it. That is
Yeah.
it for us for Black. Thanks for sticking around. It's big color for this set, and hopefully people are excited by 4-drops because we have a bunch of good ones. And we will see you guys in one of my favorite colors, red.
Ciao for now.